Hello, you are very welcome to our webinar, the title of which, as you can see there on the slide, is Communicate to Stimulate. I know I've probably met most of you either virtually or in person, but for those that haven't, my name is Barbara Moynihan. I am one of the facilitators and also the founder here at On Your Feet. So I thought today that we might start off with a definition of the word stimulate. So who better to ask than ChatGPT? So I'm going to go into ChatGPT now, and this is where those of you who work in the IT industry, and I know we've a few of you here today, will be holding your breaths, because whenever we do something with technology live, we always hope that it's going to work. So hopefully it will pop up there on the screen. So let's ask, define stimulate. Okay, so let's see what we're getting. Okay, so let's look at some of the keywords here. Oh my gosh, this is a long definition. So it's the increase in activity, energy, physiological response in something or someone. So when you speak, I'm going to assume that you would like to have some kind of a response from your audience. And you can ChatGPT that yourselves a little bit later again if you want to. But for now, let's have a look at a more traditional way of getting a dictionary, cat out of the bag, a definition. So the Cambridge Dictionary says, and you can see our little chap here is obviously incredibly excited by what's in the dictionary. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, to stimulate means. So when you're communicating with your own audience, I'm sure you want them to be excited and interested in what you are speaking about. Our plan over the next 30 minutes is to share 6 tips that will help you to be more stimulating when communicating. Just to make it clear, we're not going to be covering the normal things we cover on a normal program, which some of you have obviously experienced already. Things like how to prepare, who's your audience, how to structure, body language, voice in general terms, opening, closing, PowerPoint best practice. We're not going to be covering on them specifically here. What you're going to get are tips that will help you to be more stimulating when you're communicating. So before I get stuck in, just a little bit of an overview of the types of clients that we work with and a little bit about us as a team. We're a small team of 5. So there are 3 of us involved in the facilitating. So there's Magella, Aideen, and myself. In the background, we have Debbie, who looks after all the financial end of things. Also Sharon, who does all the operational things. Sharon, would you like to say a quick hello there?
Hi, everybody. I hope you enjoy the webinar today.
Sharon is my co-host. That's also another way of checking that she's still there. So she will be there fielding any of your questions and answers. On that, let's get started. So I'm going to make the assumption that none of you here today are brain surgeons or surgeons of any type. If you are, by the way, please do pop in the chat and let us know. But we have a wide range of people from a wide range of industries today. We have people from aviation, technology, education, real estate, who else? We've got pharma, construction. So there's a lot of you from different areas. If you were a surgeon, you'd probably need to be perfect or as close to perfect as you can get. And just recently I myself actually had a bit of surgery on my knee. Quick flash of the picture there, but you can see on the right hand side there is obviously my right knee I had done. I cannot tell you how many times I was asked, sorry, we take that off the screen, you don't really need to be looking at my knee for too long, but I can't tell you how many times I was asked when I went into the hospital, what was my name, what was my date of birth, and which knee was getting done. So they were going to be making sure that they were definitely 100% in getting the right knee. As you saw on the picture there, they had an arrow coming up, an arrow coming down to make sure that there was no room for error. So I think we'd all agree if we were having surgery, we would like that level of perfection. However, when we're communicating, I'm going to suggest that one way that will help you to be more stimulating is if you don't aim for perfection. The reason I'm saying this is when we aim for perfection, sometimes we try to be too perfect. We become very rigid, very robotic. So allow yourself to not be perfect. It's really, really going to help you to be more relaxed and more engaging, which is also going to stimulate those who are listening to you, whether virtual or in person. So quick question, and I'd love if you'd answer in the chat here. Have we, actually, by the way, just in the chat, when I ask you a question like that, you might respond. If you have a question relating to what we're covering here today, please do pop it into the Q&A button, which is in a slightly different area in your toolbar on your screen. So in the chat, I would love to know, are you a fan of Countdown? And actually, it doesn't really matter whether you're a fan or not. What have we got here in the chat? Okay, Tricia saying yes, Sharon saying yes, Laura, Michelle, when you get the opportunity. Good question. What is Countdown? So Countdown is a TV program. There's two parts to it. One is numerical. The other part is to do with letters and words. And it's the letter and words part. Okay, there's quite a few fans here today, which is great. So the part that deals with the letters and the words, the contestants get to choose consonants and vowels. And they choose a number of them, and then they try and make up a word from the consonant and vowels that they've chosen. But the key point that I'm raising Countdown is to think about your consonants and your vowels. Your vowels are your A, E, I, O, U. If you're communicating, it is the consonants that give the clarity to your communication. I don't know if you find it, but sometimes people can mutter a little bit when they're communicating. So if you feel that might be you, put a little bit of extra effort into your consonants. If you feel that maybe sometimes you don't get the right amount of emotion into what you're saying, use the vowels. So your clarity comes from your consonants, the emotion comes from the vowels. And we all know that people will take in the logical part, but they need to connect with your message emotionally. If we look at the word O, OH, which you could argue is just a letter, how many ways can you say it? Surprised. Oh, shocked. Oh, happy. Oh, curious. Oh. So you see what I mean? You can do a lot with your vowels. Sometimes we're not really mindful of them. So if you want to add impact, just for those who like Countdown, that was just a few seconds of their theme tune. So when you're communicating, think about your consonants and your vowels because they can add impact. Just starting to share there, because I want to share a little story with you. When people come on our 1 day and 2 day programs in person, or if they're doing them virtually, they're 2 half-day modules for the 1 day and 4 half-day modules for the 2 day. We send out a link to our video platform. You fill in various information, including your current strengths, as well as your current challenges. One challenge that comes up over and over and over again is the issue of speed. Often people will say, I tend to speak fast when I get very, very nervous. So one way to avoid speaking fast is to speak slower. The thing is, if you start trying to speak really slowly, it just kills your personality. And, you know, I'm 23 years now training in presentation skills. And it was only a number of years ago that I realized there was a particular word that was causing people to speak really fast. So if you know what that word might be, pop it in the chat. I'll go back into the slides and I'll share it with you in just a second. Okay. So what might the most dangerous word be in any language, it's a word that causes people to speed up and speak fast. I'm going to give you a second to think about it. Everybody's afraid of putting in the wrong answer. All right, I'll put you out of your misery. The most dangerous word. We have one brave person. Isabel, it could be or 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 I suppose, or any of those other filler words. From my observations, I believe it is the word and. Simple, inoffensive, 3 letters. But the thing is that people will say something like, hi everybody, I'm Barbara, and today we're going to be looking at some tips around communicating stimulate. And the first thing, and. What happens is the whole presentation turns into one sentence. Just watch out for it. You might not have noticed it, even in yourself. If you have more than one and in a sentence, ask yourself, am I actually joining what should be a new sentence? So instead of and, put in a pause. In other words, a full stop. The way to help you remember this is to think of LAMP. It's a little mnemonic or acronym for the term less ands, more pauses. So watch out for the ands. It's funny, now that it's on your radar, you'll probably notice, certainly for the rest of the day, if not the rest of your life, people who use and, speaking fast and maybe using too many words. Okay, those of you who've been on our webinars before will know we do like a poll. So I'm going to launch a poll in a second. This is a poll that we ran on LinkedIn quite recently. And I see that some of you have already answered it for us. So we asked you about the experiences you experience in your hybrid, and it was particularly through hybrid communications. So this is the same poll we did on LinkedIn. Interestingly enough, the results, and I'll give you a second because I know some of you haven't had a chance to complete it. The results are a little bit similar, but not the exact same. So let me share, give you 2 ticks because there are a few answers coming in there. Okay, going to share the results. So here are the results. You can see there that limited engagement and limited networking both got 42%. Poor audio in the room was the lowest one at 32%, and remote attendees feeling left out. So I'm going to come back to engagement in just a second there. Interestingly, when we did that poll on LinkedIn, this is what we got. So limited engagement has come up top, okay, joint top here today, but came up top of the list in LinkedIn. So it's tricky to get that engagement, particularly in the hybrid and the virtual world, but also maybe to a lesser extent in the real environment. One of the things that can help you to be more engaging, which is going to help people to be more stimulated to listen to you and take action, is to think about your facials. Sounds a little bit trite. Often people will know, yes, we should be using the body language, you should be expressive, but sometimes they just forget about these 42 muscles that we have. And instead of using them, they go into what we term Botox face. Nothing moves. You know, we become very rigid and very serious. But the interesting thing is, if you're chatting to your family or your friends or even a colleague, you'll tend to be quite expressive visually, not just in your body language, but in your facials. Bear in mind, virtually, you're just a little small square on the screen. They don't see a lot of your body language. So be really, really, really mindful of your facials, because they can be really good to help to make you more engaging. So the tip there is EYF, engage your facials. So just before I go on, Sharon, is there any questions coming yet? Dawn at all?
We've had one come in from Paul. He says, I usually stand when giving virtual presentations. Is that something that you would recommend yourself?
Oh, interesting, Paul. Yes, I'm actually standing here myself today. I'm trying to not move around too much because sometimes when I do, my camera goes out of focus. Yeah, if I've got something that's less than an hour, typically I will stand. The reason being that it brings more energy. It makes you be, more expressive with your body language. Just one thing to watch out for, Paul, if you are standing, your stance is a bit wider than normal. So you'd be wider than hip width, because that can help you to be a bit more grounded and stop you from, moving around too much. Okay, is that it for now on the questions, Sharon?
Yeah, that was it, yeah.
Okay, sure, I'll come back to them later. Okay, so I want to share a bit of research done by Rosario Signorello, an Italian acoustic scientist. When he was in UCLA, he's not there anymore, and he's based in Europe, but he did some research around political leaders from Italy, France, and Portugal. So what he did was he got his the research subjects, the research personnel, to listen to people speaking in these 3 different languages and rank them in terms of charisma. What he found was absolutely fascinating, because if you think about it, for any leader, whether it's in political life or in professional life, public speaking is probably the most risky form of communication. But what he found in his research was the political leaders who tended to use the voice to the extreme, so went to the right to the deepest extremities, right up to the highest, so who engaged their full vocal range, tended to be deemed more charismatic. Here's a question for you. If we were to compare our voices to a piano, which I'm told has 88 keys, if anybody is any the wiser on that, you might pop in the chat. But we sometimes are just playing chopsticks, just the few little keys. And Laura, I noticed you mentioned there, well, I just said and can become hypnotic language. Yes, it can, and not very engaging. Same thing is if we're using just the same little parts of our voice, typically the middle parts, it's not very stimulating. We can come across very, very flat. Here's your challenge for today. Maybe just try it. Engage your full vocal range, and please, 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 please don't play chopsticks. It's just dull and boring. Those are our points so far. We've the don't aim for perfection. You can read them there. I'm not going to read them out for you. But just while you think about them, just a little teeny plug. Be rude not to. Most of you know anyway, we run our 2-day programs. When they're virtual, we do them 2-day in person, 4 days if it's virtual in half-day modules. The 1 day in person, 2 days over when it's virtual, or one-to-one coaching. And we do tailored webinars and lunch and or learns, something like this on a specific topic, a little bit longer. Okay, end of plug. Our final point for today, but just before we go to it, Sharon, because I'm a little bit ahead of time, have we any more questions come in?
Yes, we do. Trevor has asked, just regarding that last point about the chopsticks, he said, is there not a danger that you'll sound a bit sing-songish if you're using the full range of voice?
Well, I suppose if you're just kind of talking like this and going up and down without any meaning, yes, it would be very sing-songish. But if we're talking, I suppose, matching our voice to what we're saying, then it won't be sing-song. For example, if you're talking about something that's really serious, you might, go to your maybe a little bit lower. If you're talking about something that's positive or upbeat or very lighthearted, you might go to the higher. So yes, don't just randomly use the full range, because that would be not engaging. And like you say there, Trevor, a bit sing-songish. I suppose the key point is to be mindful. You have that full range. I bet you any money you use it out there when you're with your family and your friends and at the weekend, especially over a long weekend like we have coming up here. You'll be using it to the full extent. So use it when you're communicating as well. So our final point for today is a topic that often comes up, is the topic of gravitas. People want that when they're speaking, that people will see them as a leader, as somebody worth listening to. So I want to share a story with you here about this person here, who most of you probably recognise as Margaret Thatcher, who was Prime Minister in the UK from 1979 to 1990. Regardless of your political feelings about Margaret Thatcher, just have a little listen and watch this for a second.
I've been so busy that I haven't had really much time to think about it. After all, I know I'm still only me, and so do my family. But I'm very much aware of the responsibilities and a little bit apprehensive. Who wouldn't be when you think of the names that I follow?
Let me answer that very deeply, because I feel very strongly about it. The greatest divisions this nation has ever seen were the conflicts of trade unions towards the end of a Labour government.
Bit of a difference between the two. While I just explained to you what happened there, pop in the chat specifically what you saw different between the first one and the second one. What happened with Margaret Thatcher was it was felt that her voice was a little bit light. It didn't have gravitas, that people might not really sit up, listen, and take action. What happened? Yes, Lorna, vocal range, absolutely. Lower tone, the emphasis, the range, the emotion, the consonants and the vowels. Padraig, she must have been to one of my webinars, not. But what happened was she went to Stuart Pearce from the Shakespeare Global Theatre. Now, Stuart Pearce worked with people like Lady Diana. She worked with the Olympic team, the politicians, and the athletes who were bidding for the 2012 Olympic team. She worked with them on their voices, and she did the same thing with her. So you can see what she did. Yes, Colin, in second, she's far more serious, much more intense, confidence, the pauses, the facial expressions, the eyes. Somebody actually said to me recently, they preferred the person, the first version, than the person in the second version. But here's the thing, as a leader, which one is going to make people sit up and listen? My key message for you on this is to do with your resonance. Drop your resonance appropriately. So I'm certainly not saying that everybody should suddenly go to the baritone and start speaking at this rate. In fact, Duke University did research and they found with leaders, and it was just with males they did the research, that those who tend to speak with a lower voice tended to earn $187,000 a year more than their higher pitched counterparts. Take what you like from that. But I do know, if you want to be taken seriously, if there's a particular point that you really need to land, just drop your resonance appropriately. When I've shared that with other groups, sometimes the topic of Elizabeth Holmes comes up, and those of you know are probably nodding, and those of you don't know are thinking, I don't know who she is. Google her. In short, she basically changed her voice completely and was speaking at this level all the time, which I wouldn't recommend. But so long as you take the key point where appropriate, drop that resonance to bring you the gravitas for the situation. So there are your 6 points for today. We will be sending you a link to the recording, a link to the slides, There will be other resources as well there for you, including a link. I forgot to mention, Sharon is an absolute wizard on the Google Workspace, and she does tutorials on them. So there'll be a link to her YouTube channel there as well. So lots of goodies for you. My ask of you is this: please, please, please do complete the Survey Monkey after the webinar. But in addition to that, just take one thing, just put one thing into action. When you do, you are much more likely to communicate, to stimulate. Thank you for joining today. The link will come to you over the next few days. Have a lovely weekend. Bye-bye.